There are a number of things that nobody will tell you about leadership, the kind of unspoken truths, some might say drawbacks, that many people don't know about. Yet, when they land in a leadership position at one stage or another, they will have to deal with them and work through them. Sometimes this works out for them. Other times, it leads people to get stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out. And they may even quit their job. Now, I don't want this video to push you away from leadership, but my hope is that by informing you about these things that nobody will ever tell you about, you'll at least be aware of them and then hopefully better able to deal with them. Let's get straight into it. The first one is the responsibility burden. Before you become a leader, the idea of having more responsibility might be really appealing. You might have been craving more responsibility for yourself, and finally you have it. But there's one other side to responsibility that many leaders forget, and that is ultimate responsibility will always lie with you. Before you were a leader, it's likely that you did have a certain level of responsibility in the team or in the company, but even though you had that responsibility, the ultimate responsibility was not something you had. The ultimate responsibility was with your boss, your direct boss. Your direct boss was the one who was ultimately responsible when things went wrong. They were the ones who had to answer the tough questions, who had to answer those interrogations from upper level management. You may have had to answer to your direct boss, but it's very unlikely that you had to answer to the upper level management. And this is where it becomes different when you are a leader, because you are the one who is now ultimately responsible for the people in your team. When they make mistakes, they might have to answer to you, but you as a leader is the one who has to answer to upper level management. You might address the mistake that the person in your team made. You might help them overcome it, but ultimately that mistake that was made, even though it wasn't your fault, it was your responsibility. You are the leader of the team. You are in charge of your team's actions, and as such, you are responsible for their actions as well. I don't want this to deter you from leadership. I don't want the thought of you being ultimately responsible for people in your team and even the mistakes that they make to cause you to not become a leader or to no longer become a leader. My hope is that it will help you understand how important staying connected with your team is and staying on top of the tasks that they're completing or the projects that they're working on. This is so you can monitor their progress, so you can make sure that everything is being completed according to standard, and so you can be confident that you won't have to deal with their mistakes in the future. The power shift is something that nobody will tell you about in leadership, and that's because it only becomes evident when you land in a leadership position, when you are promoted into a leadership position. The power shift is the increase in power distance that comes naturally when you are a leader because you are in a higher level position. It shows up in two ways. First, when you are promoted into leadership, you feel more powerful because you are in a higher level, more superior position. And this can cause you to treat people in your team differently. For example, you might feel happy that you have this increase in power and you might start to abuse it or become a toxic leader. Or you might feel burdened by this increase in power. You might deny it, and this might cause you to let people in your team walk all over you. The second way the power shift can show up is when you are promoted into leadership, the people in your team know that you have this increase in power, and this can cause them to start interacting and behaving around you in a different way. For example, they might start to withhold information from you. They might not tell you when they have made a mistake because they fear they're going to be reprimanded. Or they might stop inviting you to have lunch with them because you are the boss. As a leader, you are automatically put in a power position compared to your former peers and compared to your team members, and this can pose some additional challenges for you. But if you are aware of the power shift that can occur when you are promoted into management or leadership, you are better able to handle interactions and conversations with people in your team to make sure that it doesn't end up being a toxic work environment. Jealousy is unfortunate but very common when you are promoted into leadership. Jealousy mostly comes from your former peers, people you used to work with on an equal level, but now because you are promoted into a leadership position, you are in a superior or high level position to them. But it can also come from other managers and leaders who went for the same job that you did, but you won it. Unfortunately, they didn't. These are a couple of ways as to how jealousy can show up when you are promoted into leadership. And it can show up with indirect rude comments, sarcastic remarks, sideways glances, or people spreading rumors about you. These are, of course, on the rarer side, but at an extreme level, this is how jealousy can play out in the workplace. What I want to help you with is dealing with it. If you have a former peer or a coworker who is jealous of you because of your position, you need to approach them, sit down with them, and have a one-on-one conversation with them. Tell them what you have noticed and the impact it has had on your job. Tell them what you would like them to do instead. What is the opposite behavior that you would like to see from them? And above all, ask for their support. If you ask for their support, if they feel that you need their help, they're more likely to buy into the fact that you are in a higher level position, to support you, to be kind to you, and reshape their entire behavior. Many of you watching may have heard of office politics, and you may have seen it at one stage or another. Unfortunately, when you become a leader, you will be drawn into it at some stage. Office politics can include favoritism, gossiping, spreading rumors, backstabbing, forming cliques, or intentionally withholding information. And at an extreme level, it can include nepotism, bribery, or blackmailing. Or another of the very creative ways that people can play office politics. If you've seen or experienced something that I haven't mentioned in this list, let me know in the comments below. I actually did a recent video on my channel called Leaders Never Play These Office Politics, where I go into office politics in much more detail. I'll put a card on the screen above here and a link in the description below. The difficult thing with office politics is that it can creep up on you, and before you know it, you're embroiled in some kind of office politics and you have to find a way to get out of it. So it's really important that you know that office politics exists so you can respond and react accordingly. I recommend you to be aware of what other people are saying about you. Think about people's intentions. Always think about what people's intentions are. If they're asking a favor of you, what do you think their true intention is? Be cautious of people who are not honest or transparent in their actions. And respond to any kind of office politics or toxic behavior immediately. Approach HR or have a one-on-one conversation with that person. And in the video I mentioned before, you will find out ways you can handle it. People will naturally have higher expectations of you when you become a leader. This is a good thing because it means that they believe in you. But on the flip side, it can also make you feel that you will never be able to live up to those people's expectations, that you won't be able to do the job or do the job well. This is extremely common in people who have imposter syndrome, which many high-achieving people do. You might feel that you're not cut out for leadership. You might feel that your boss will find out you're not a good leader at all and they'll fire you. But honestly, compared to the amount of times that you might have been worried about this in your career, how many times has it actually shown up as a problem? Rarely, I think. Higher expectations can be really difficult to live with. It can cause you to work longer hours, to work harder, to prove yourself and to make sure that the job is done right. But it's absolutely something that you need to manage, because when you do work longer hours, when you work harder, this often leads to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. So it's something that you absolutely need to manage and need to keep under control. I recommend that you have regular one-on-one meetings with your boss to see how you are performing. I recommend that you check in regularly with your team to see how you are leading. Are they happy with the way that you are leading? Are there any improvements that you could make? And make sure you keep a journal where you flag areas in which you can improve. That way you can keep track of those areas and you can actively work on them to improve them. This will help you feel that you're progressing and help you feel that you're working towards meeting those higher expectations. The fact that you have to network with people inside your company and even outside your company when you become a leader can be a real surprise for many people. If you're somebody who has done networking throughout your career because you understood early on the importance of networking and you've become good at it, then networking won't be a problem for you. But if you're like the many others, the majority of people who are focused on their job-related skill and not on their relationship building skill, then networking can be really daunting. How do you start networking? Do you attend networking events randomly, or should you be more strategic about it? How do you start talking to people? What do you say in those conversations? How do you continue to nurture the relationship and move it forward? If you are new to networking, if you've never done networking before, I highly recommend you start to learn about networking etiquette. And before you ask, yes, I do have a video on networking etiquette on my channel, which you can access right here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that in this video, I've helped you become more aware about some things in leadership that you probably don't know about to help you become better prepared to succeed as a leader. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.